All right, so I'm here with Susan Butler, and we're going to talk about things she's seen and things she's done, and she's been involved in so much around the river with many things, and we're going to talk about her life as it started and what she wants to share with us. So, I'm John English. I'm senior historical correspondent for Beaubears Island. There's a fancy term. So maybe we'll start where you were born. Let us know where you were born and how many in the family, and what your dad did and what your mother did and all of that. What year were you? Not your age in particular. We can skip that if you wish.
Well, that doesn't bother me.
Okay.
Age means nothing. I was born October the 21st, 1946.
So a baby boomer.
I was a baby boomer, and I was born to Charles Butler and Cecilia Mills, and I was born and brought up on the Chaplin Island Road, which is now called Route 430 Highway, and I lived at the Mill Stream, and the Mill Stream and the Oxbrook joined together, and our place was called Avoca. The Koreans many years ago, old Mr. Green was in Ireland, and when he came back he spoke to my dad and said, "You should call this place Avoca." He said, because it reminds me of Avoca in Ireland. So after that, our home was always called Avoca, Meeting of the Waters. But anyway, I'm the third in a family of four. I have my sister Mary and my brother Tom, who passed away a couple of years ago, and then my younger brother Michael. And we certainly were never rich, but we were plentiful with love. We were very rich in love, and
You're better off with love.
that's right, that's for sure. But we grew up on a farm. We had cows and
So you
horses.
knew work.
We knew what work was, yes. And I have to tell a little story.
Well, we like stories.
We got 10 cents for every chicken we would pluck. And my sister, who never liked to do it, of course I would be going as fast as I could to pluck them. And it was something that I could never understand. I remember my mother, God love her, she'd cut the heads off the chickens, and then they run around. I could never understand how they could run around.
So that's the truth.
Before they dropped
That's true.
That's true, yeah.
I
But
didn't
then
know
you
that.
had to have hot boiling water to put them in, because that's when they were easier to pluck.
Right.
So anyway, that was our job doing that, and I remember that so very well. And I remember my dad had a lot of property with wood on it, so he had number.
So we had a woodlot.
Yeah, we had a number of. I remember one family that used to come and cut it for him. It was the Baisley family from Trout Brook. But the Baisleys from Trout Brook. They were always noted for working in the woods and cutting the logs and taking them to market for my dad. But my dad was the story was always told when Mama married Dad, she married the co-op, because Dad was very involved with Bill Vickers and the co-op. In fact, there are 2 scholarships at Miramichi Valley High School, one in Bill Vickers' name and one in my dad's name, Charles Butler. But anyway, Dad was, for years and years, he was very involved with the co-op and also the Agricultural Society. So I remember as a kid, him going out to out west, and of course that was a big thing way back in those days.
Travel back then was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. Yeah. But anyway, we had it was a simple life, but a beautiful life.
Yeah.
Living in the country.
I would call it wholesome.
Oh yeah. But anyway, as kids, we befriended everybody. And there was an old Sandy Hutcherson, God rest his soul, used to drive the grader back the Chaplain Road. And of course back then the roads weren't paved. And we'd stand in the middle of the road. Mama could be home washing the floors, and we'd say, "Mama wants you to come in for something to eat." Mom didn't even know we were bringing him in off the road. We did that more than once.
Well, back then, somehow the neighbors were more neighbors, and you played with whoever was around you, regardless of who they were or what the parents were like. It was more sociable.
Oh, it was, yeah. And everybody, like, in the hunting season, if somebody got a moose or a deer,
Yes.
there was nothing for them to leave a roast or something on your doorstep, you know.
Yeah.
And then there was Father McCarthy from Trout Brook. He was a character, let me tell you.
That little church in Trout Brook?
In Trout Brook, yes. But anyway, he loved to read, and he knew Dad loved to read too. Dad never finished high school because he had to look after the farm. His brother Fred went overseas, and Uncle Ned, who was a professor of history came professor of history at St. Thomas College, was away, and so he was self-educated. My dad was, and a wealth of knowledge that he gained from reading. And of course, Father McCarthy knew he had top line of the books, so he's always coming down for books. So he'd come to the door and he'd say, "Where's your mother?" And of course, I said, "Oh, she's behind the stove having a cigarette." Mom would be ready to kill me. And a number of years later, when I worked at Mount St. Joseph, who came to stay at Mount St. Joseph? And Monsignor Hickey was there at the time. So anyway, he always called me Jumbo as a kid. So I hadn't seen him like 20 years. I had finished high school, and then I went into nursing up in Hamilton. I worked there for a year. Then I met my husband-to-be, John Patrick Butler from Barnaby River. So I moved back to the Miramichi in 1971. And I went to work at Mount St. Joseph. So anyway, Monsignor Hickey and
So you knew Monsignor Hickey?
Oh, very well. I had the great honor of singing White Cliffs of Dover at his funeral. I was with him the day he left to go over for D-Day in France, and and I remember him saying that he wasn't that well, and I said to him, "Please use a wheelchair. Don't play yourself out." And you know what he said to me? He said, "Susan, if I was to die on France soil, it would be a dream come true." It wasn't 2 days till we got the phone call that they had found him on the floor in his room. And that was a real tragedy, and then it was very devastating because of the political aspect and all the what's the word I'm looking for? The legality of his death. It took almost 2 weeks before his body could be brought back.
Government bureaucracy.
Oh yeah, back to New Brunswick.
Back. This is the story I'll tell you. Somehow my father knew, I think doing historical research down in St. Michael's, and he knew a priest there. It could have been Father Broderick, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, when he came back from World War II, his boys, his soldiers, he called them his boys.
That's right.
And his boys built a corner faux fireplace instead of steel, and they built it for him. And you could plug it in, and it had a revolving light inside the fireplace. And it had a pipe in the back. And my mother told me that story, that's how this came to be made. And it's in my father's house.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah. So I think he got it from a priest in Chatham who passed it on to Dad when that priest
It could have been
passed
Father
on.
Broderick.
I think it was.
But I remember Monsignor had an apartment at Mount St. Joseph.
That's where he had the stove.
Okay. But anyway, he had a room which was called a Gosenta. And you know what? Why was that? Because everything goes into it.
Gosenta.
I got the biggest charge out of that. But anyway, no, well, I knew Monsignor before he was a Monsignor because he was our parish priest. He helped build St. Mary's. So I grew up with him, so to speak, you know, as our parish priest. And then he became a Monsignor. And, but anyway, of course, when I grew up, we kind of went our own way until I met him again at Mount St. Joseph. And as I was saying, well, he and Father McCarthy were going up the stairs. So anyway, I said, "Hello, Father." So anyway, Monsignor said, "Do you know that young lady?" of course, all it was yeah, jumbo. So Monsignor looked at me and said, "What?" I said, "That's all right, Father." He called me that from the time I was a kid. But oh, he could be a character, I'm telling you. But no, I worked at Mount St. Joseph for over 30 years.
So
And
you were at the end, I believe, recreational.
Yes, I was director of activities. And,
Okay,
thoroughly enjoyed it. And I spent, I shouldn't say our family spent probably 20 Christmas Eves there. I used to have mass, we'd have mass, then we'd have pictures with the family by the Christmas tree and have a lunch, and then they'd go to bed. But I did that for almost 20 years, and my kids did it with me, and they still remember that. And going down there for Christmas Eve, it was just a normal thing. Christmas Eve was at Mount St. Joseph.
That's priceless.
Yeah. But anyway, no, I always had a heart for the older people. And I remember up in Hamilton, this, I forget his name now, but anyway, he had terrible decubitus ulcers on his back, that he had to be in a striker frame, as they call them, that you just kept flipping the body over so there wouldn't be any pressure on it. And of course, he used to cry and cry. So anyway, the only way I could get him to stop crying, I'd get on the floor and I'd sing to him. So I said, "If you want me to sing, you have to stop crying." So he'd stop crying. So I'd sing him all these Irish songs. And then when I get up, he'd start to cry. But anyway, he
So you became very close with the people that were housed there.
Yeah. Oh yes. Well, this in particular person was in Hamilton when I was nursing in Hamilton.
Okay.
But of all the floors, and I felt sure when I left Hamilton to come to work at Mount St. Joseph that it was my calling, because on all the floors I worked in intensive care, I worked in surgery and pediatrics. The one I felt the most comfortable with was 4th floor, which was geriatrics. And then I remember them saying to me, "Are you sure that's what you want?" And I remember the director of nursing saying to me, "If you don't like it down there, your job is here free if you want to come back." I said, "I'm going home to get married. I won't be coming back."
That's it.
Yeah, but anyway, music was on my life. I loved to sing, but my sister sang as well, so I figured I'd never be able to sing the way she sang.
So in your family, when you grew up,
Yeah.
was your mother or father musical?
Mom was. Mom always played the piano.
I love
She
piano.
always, she loved to play the piano, and she sang. I remember people telling us that my mom used to sing Schubert's Ave Maria in the little church up in Northwest Bridge, as they call it, right by the mill. There was this is St. Teresa, the church that used to be there, but it's long gone. But anyway, Mama used to sing in that church, and somebody said you could hear her everywhere when she sang. So that's what we inherited, and of course we were trained by the wonderful sisters at St. Mary's Convent, Sisters of Notre Dame. And
so they were skilled in music. They were skilled in it.
These sisters that taught us, they were music teachers.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I had Sister Claire Maureen taught music and taught me, and she said one day, she said, "You better get it through your head that there's more than one Butler singer in your family." And I looked at her and I thought, what does she mean by that? She said, "I've watched you." She said, "When your sister's not around, you just soar," she said. "And then when she walks in, you clam up." So, and I remember one time, as I said, I was a tomboy. I'd dig worms. I had a sign outside, "Worms for sale." So they'd knock at the door. So anyway, one day I was just petrified. Because on Saturdays, it was common practice for the butlers to go to town and get the groceries and that, but I wouldn't go. I'd stay home. I loved to put Mary Orlando on and sing along with them. So this one day I got caught with these guys. I don't know who they were. But anyway, I shut the thing off, of course, real fast. So anyway, when I was digging the worms, the lad said, "Who was singing inside?" I said, "Oh, that was a recording." I said, "That was a Mary Lanza." No, this was a woman's voice. I said, "Oh," I said, "you must have been here now." Oh, I was so scared. You
How old were you then?
I was probably 13, 12, 13. So anyway, I when I was 15, my aunt and I went to a wedding in Montreal. And the morning of the wedding, the person that was supposed to sing took sick. So my aunt said to the bride, "Susan can sing." And so they kind of looked at me and said, in fact, one of them had the audacity to say, "Well, what have we got to lose? We have nobody."
Well, true.
Anyway, I went to the church. It was all French. And it just seemed the Lord had put everything in place. I looked on the organ. I couldn't converse with the organist because he was French. And he had Father O'Reilly's wedding portfolio on top of the organ. I pointed to 3 songs. "Lord, I'm Not Worthy." Bach and Gounod's Ave Maria, and Panis Angelicus. We went through them once. And apparently one of my cousins at the back of the church said, "Jesus, Mary, Joseph."
God is the tabernacle.
But they probably said that too, no of them. But anyway, after I finished, the priest wanted to know if I was going to be in church on Sunday. He wanted me to sing. Well, I never looked back after that. When I came home, I thought, "Oh, yes, I can."
So it gave you the
Oh, it
confidence
sure did.
of an
And
outsider
then,
saying, "This is a voice worth paying attention to."
And then, of course, I was very involved here on the river with different things. And then I wrote the song, "The Mystical Magical Machine." And anyway,
Repap used it in the videos, eh?
wait till the day. So
Okay.
anyway,
Okay.
the opening of Repap, I was asked to sing. And I sang "Mystical Magical Machine," I forget what else. But anyway, George Petty fell in love with the song.
Yeah.
So anyway, a few weeks later, they had something at the rink, and Repap was there, and I was asked to sing it again, so I did. So Mr. Petty came over to me and he said, "I want you to record that song." Of course, I looked at him like that. Is he crazy? So anyway, Joe O'Neill was just in the wings, not too far away, and he knew by the expression on my face that he thought, this guy's just handing me a line. So Joe said, and Tony, he said, "Here's my card, call me tomorrow." I thought, I've never had any dealings with recording. What in the name of God can I do with this? So anyway, Joe said, "You think he's handing you Blarney, don't you?" I said, "Well, it kind of threw me off." He said, "You call him tomorrow." So I went home and I thought, what am I going to do? I don't even know.
How's it going to work out?
So anyway, Connie and Paul, Connie Doucette and Paul McGraw, I knew who we had been associated with in music. So anyway, I asked if they'd be interested in collaborating something together, and Paul and Connie had written a couple of songs as well, and I had written some. So anyway, the Gilles Oskam from Bathurst had a recording studio, so I called him and I gave him some information because I needed to know what the cost was going to be and all that.
Yes.
So at that time, I'm talking way back in the
mid-'80s.
Oh yeah. So anyway, it was $5,000 cost for production and everything, which wasn't really too
Who's going to
bad.
pay for that?
So anyway, I called George Petty's office the next day, and I gave him all the information. He said the check would be in the mail tomorrow. And of course, I got off the phone. I went, "Oh my God." Everything was just start going so fast. So anyway, check did come in about 4 days. So anyway, we got our act together and we went up to Bathurst and it recorded my first CD, or first tape rather.
Yeah.
And anyway, for Mystical Magical Miramichi, I wanted the sound of the seagulls in the background. So Gilles went down outside, went down by the water, and got the sound of the birds. And if you hear the songs, the Mystical Magical Mirror Machine, you'll hear the birds before I start to sing. But anyway, after that, I was flown to Montreal not once but 3 or 4 times for special parties up there. And then I was asked to go to Wisconsin for the opening of the mill down there.
They put a lot of money in that mill down
Yeah,
there.
so anyway, I went down to sing, and it was a huge tent, and I mean, everything was first class. Like when we got off the plane, the way the plane, the door opened, it was like a red carpet, and of course, we flew from here to Montreal, and then George Petty met us in Montreal, and I remember him coming on the plane, and he came back to speak to me, and I said, "This is my husband." And I remember him saying, "We love her, you better be good to her." So I said, "Oh, you don't have to worry about that." So anyway, he, after I finished singing, there was these 2 guys, and they were feeling no pain.
I see,
So when I came back to the table, the lady says, "Put her here, Kate." Kate Smith, eh? That's what he was referring me as.
You're a little younger than that.
Yeah. But
It's not a
anyway.
hockey game in Philadelphia now.
No, I know. But anyway, and then of course the tap was sold, and I hadn't heard from George for a long, long time. And then one day Ginger called his wife.
Yeah.
She was crying. And apparently in his will he had said when I had to pass, I want Susan Butler to sing my fame. So they flew me up to Montreal. And I thought I would get some hymns ready. Yeah? Oh, they didn't want hymns. Of course they wanted Recap the Dream, which I had written for especially just for George. And they wanted Mystical Magical Mirror Machine. And you'll never guess what they wanted coming down the aisle. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day, my oh my, what a wonderful day. That's
And
what
the funeral?
Oh yeah, and they danced down the aisle.
What?
Oh yeah.
I mean, what?
And then in between that, first they had a recording of and did it my way because George was
He surely
his
did.
way. It was his way.
Hell or high water.
But anyway, it was quite a celebration of life. He had gone to Florida, and he had had a kidney transplant and something.
Maybe in
But
fact.
he was, and I remember one time they called, and they were having a party, and Ginger wanted me to get her a pair of shoes, clogging shoes. I said, clogging shoes? I said, okay. And she wanted me to bring a fiddler with her, and she wanted me to bring some step dancers. So I brought Jim Morrison, and I forget, there was a Barrio girl, I think was one of the dancers. There were 2 dancers I brought, and myself. But anyway, after they all went back to the hotel, he said, stay, he said. He said, we'll take you back to your hotel. But they made me feel like family.
Yeah.
That was just the way he was, you know. And never once did I call him George. I always
Mr.
called him
Petty?
Mr. Petty. I couldn't get the word George out. It was always Mr. Petty. I guess it was just the way we were brought up to respect.
Yeah.
You know.
For respect. Yeah.
But anyway, no, he was quite a guy. You know.
Great salesman.
Oh, you better believe it. He was
Slick.
But anyway, they couldn't have treated me any better. And then after that, of course, I got very involved, as I said, locally, and then I started doing major fundraisers. The first major fundraiser was the Katrina disaster, and I forget how many thousands of dollars we raised for that. Then I did one for the Westray miners, and I'll never forget this.
That was heartbreaking. That's the whole incident.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
Anyway, I did these major fundraisers were done at the Civic Center,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember this little lad coming in with this piggy bank.
No.
He just opened it and poured the money. You know, it was just just bring a tear to your eye.
I'd be
You know?
crying.
Yeah. And then I And then I was invited up to Ottawa to do my cousin was a translator in Ottawa, and she was very involved with these people, the immigrants in that, because she spoke 7 different languages. But anyway, she wanted to do a fundraiser for these people coming into. So anyway, I did it at the West Block of the Parliament buildings in Ottawa. So anyway, she flew me up, and then I'll never forget it because there was a strike going on at the nursing home, and I had asked for permission to go because I couldn't. There was nothing you could change because my airfare was paid for and everything was planned, you know. Anyway, they let me go, and the union people were very good. They said let Butler out, and they let me in when I came back, you know.
So there were strikers on the picket line.
Yeah, oh yeah, but they didn't give me any, because then I was in management, eh? So
Kind of dicey there.
yeah, kind of dicey, but they kind of went along with it anyway. It wasn't a thing I could do. I couldn't change anything, you know.
No.
But anyway, and then one day, I got this letter in the mail saying that I was getting the Order of Canada. Well, I almost passed out. And then it said I had to keep my mouth shut. I couldn't say anything
Until they announced it. Who was the Prime Minister then? Was it Gotcha? Martin?
No, well, it was in 2012.
Careful?
Isn't that? I can't
Yeah,
remember back.
okay.
But anyway,
How did you get nominated? How does that work?
well, let's say the culprit, but the one who initiated it, I think, was Dr. Katari. I used to do some major fundraising for him. He used to build houses in his homeland for people that were having.
In Africa?
No, in India.
Yes, yes. I remember reading about
Yeah.
that. Yes.
But anyway, I worked many years with him on that, and he was the one that initiated, because I know I had heard Jerry Donoghue had said he takes a number of letters. Like I was totally blown away. I said, here, you know, this one from the backwoods. You know.
They couldn't even spell my machine.
No. But anyway, I was totally flabbergasted, but it was quite an experience. And I remember when they called my name, when we were lined up to come in to the hall at the Governor General's home. I really got nervous, and I thought to myself, and it was just like somebody hit me on the shoulder and said, "You didn't come up here to make a fool of yourself, so smart now." So anyway, this guy was me, he said, "But are you white?" I said, "Yes, I'm white." And I figured it was Dad.
What?
My father saying to me from above that, you know, you'll be all right. So anyway, my daughter, our 2 daughters came with us, and Jack's sister flew down from Kingston. So it was quite the celebration.
Did they practice? Did they give you practice
No.
steps or directions or anything?
No.
No? No. Okay.
So anyway, but I said to them, I said, "Do you mind if I take the I don't know what they call the aide camp or whatever,
Yeah.
who escorted you?" And they said, "Whatever you want." Because I figured if I didn't, I might fall down.
Have a little, yeah.
But
Perhaps.
anyway, and then in the evening, or I shouldn't jump. We had the luncheon then, and then the Governor General was shown.
Yes.
And Cheryl
yes,
Shaw?
yes.
Anyway, she came over
Yeah.
to me and she said, "Susan," she said, "can you sing on accompaniment?" I said, "I grew up on accompaniment." She said, "Well, I would like you to sing tonight at our dinner."
Holy
said-
jumpins.
Okay. So after she went away, and I went, "Oh my God." I said, "You really want to sing?" So the first thing I thought of was Mystical Magical Machine. And then I said, "No." And I had written just another one called "Proud to be Canadian." So Jack said, I think proud to be Canadian would be the better of them all. He said, I know you like your mystical, magical mare mache. He said, but I think proud to be Canadian would be better.
It would represent all
That's right.
Canadians.
So that was all right.
That's a good
I
idea.
was sitting at a table with the president of Toronto Bank in Canada, and I was sitting with Stephen Lewis and his wife. He had received the Order of Canada a number of years ago. His wife was receiving it that day. And I was sitting with Michel Jean's aide-de-camp. He was sitting next to me, and then Jack. So anyway, I got up and I sang, proud to be Canadian. So anyway, it gets better. This one.
Do you want to clean?
No, this lady, she was running her father's shipbuilding business in Quebec, and she got received the Order of Canada as well. Anyway, she's a beautiful looking lady, but just a little rough around the edges anyway. She had a beautiful black gown on, long,